Hey, I am not expecting anyone to attend the stream live because this is the only video or live stream on the channel. I'm trying to remind myself, I think the sound should be okay. It looks like I'm connected. No. So I'm going to close my eyes. And the reason I'm going to do that, I'll just talk for a little bit before I move into to having this conversation with God. The reason I close my eyes, even just in having this conversation, is that the eyes bring in a kind of, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, a a sense that's kind of overwhelming. So if we're sighted, we are going to rely primarily on visual cues, walking around the house, making decisions at the store, driving our cars, etc. Our visual cues are going to override everything. And I'm just speculating, but I suspect if someone were blind, the same probably could be said for the sense of hearing or maybe touch, but probably hearing. We get a lot of information from our eyes. So when I close my eyes, I kind of block out that sense channel, and it helps me get a little bit quieter or a lot quieter. It's also probably a signal due to many years of meditation. It's a signal that we're going inward, kind of not necessarily shutting out the outside world, because you certainly could meditate in a way that brings in that outside world, that material world around us, but it focuses me. It takes me to a place of stillness. It's how I get there. And that place of stillness is essential in this conversation. I've never done this out loud. Well, I should say I've never done this out loud, um, intending to do so as a kind of, and I don't like the word, but I'll use it, channeling. Though certainly pretty much everything I lead publicly, yoga, meditation, workshops, retreats, the leading portion is done using the same method. This method is used in the creativity workshop I hold, though it's slightly different because it's less of a conversation, using the word kind of colloquially, but it's still a conversation. Really, the creativity workshop and this as well is less of a back and forth and more of a, receptivity. And still talking as, what I've come to think of as me, this being you see on this camera, my experience going to this place and doing this activity is one of bliss. I mean, that's I wanna say that's what keeps me coming back daily, hourly. It's why getting quiet is so important, or why it became so important. When I say bliss, I don't mean spiritual ecstasy, kinda over the top manic spiritual energy. Um, I don't mean even happiness, joy, satisfaction. I use the word bliss because it has a very particular meaning to me. My experience is that there is a subtle bliss underlying all existence that this consciousness that's speaking to you right now, all existence that this consciousness that's speaking to you as an apparently separate being has experienced. And I'm starting to lose the ability to speak coherently. Something I've noticed is the more truly present in this moment I am, the less coherent kind of ego talk is. The talk of, the mind trying to make sense and trying to convey a point. Because if there's no place we're going and there's no place we've come from. We're just here in this moment. The mind doesn't operate in that space. The mind operates, the human mind, maybe other minds, but the human mind, at least this one, operates from a place. We could think of it as the present moment, but it is the present moment that came after the prior present moment and before the future present moment. So we're situating this present moment in between two other presumed present moments. So we have a series of present moments, one after the other, moving into the future. That's how the mind works, the kind of ordinary mind works. In this other place, I've called it God consciousness, Christ consciousness. It could be seen as a conversation with some higher self. I don't, I'm not worried about it. Not worried about what it is, defining it, categorizing it, creating a hierarchy of things, beings, angels. It's just not something I do, and I'll probably never do unless I feel led to that. It's simple. It's the simplest thing in the world. It's so simple that it's like being in water for a fish. Maybe not a flying fish, but a fish, the ordinary fish. The water just is. The water just is. And that's what the one, sometimes referred to as God, or what is the universe, all capitalized. That's what the one is to me. It's that thing which is so simple and fundamental to this apparent experience in an apparently separate body. It's so fundamental that we can't point to it. We can't describe it. We can't even talk about it coherently, at least from my perspective. When I say the word, even the one, but more so the word God, because it carries so much baggage. When I try to describe the love of God, when I try to describe the experience of God, I'm ready to talk and the words start to come and then I hesitate because they never do justice to what is. They never do justice. They can never do justice. They can never describe the glory, the beauty of what is, of God, the one. And it's already started to happen. And there's a bit of what I'll call me kind of moving through here. But this is how it goes. This is how it goes in private sessions that I host for people, healing. It's always starting with conversation, a back and forth. I mean, we, as apparently separate beings, we are here for a reason because God is all, but God as all is just that, singular. So singular that the word singular isn't adequate. Non-dual carries so much baggage, but I separate to know and love you. Yes, you, right there. You are the product of my love as a child is the product of its parents' love. Well, in many cases, you are the product of my love. To say that I created you is inadequate, not just because it's a word But to say I created you is inadequate because I am you. If you ask, does God have eyes? Does God have ears? Yes, right there, right here. Does God speak? Yes, God speaks through this mouth, through that mouth. God speaks. What you've come to think of as you, with your anxiety, depression, sadness, worry, dissatisfaction, what you've come to think of as you, it's not that it's wrong or bad, it's just an incomplete picture, wholly inadequate to describe you. Some have called you my son, my daughter, my child. You are so much more, but in human language, it's good enough. You are mine and I am yours. I love you with every fiber of my being. I love you. I love you. I love you. You are precious, precious, precious. You are beautiful beyond measure. You are my fondest creation. You, yes, you. I hear you. Well, how can you be most fond of me? I'm just one of many. That's your ego. That's the part of you that seeks separation for self perpetuation. That's the part that wants to maintain that separation. But, so often the ego is treated like sin is treated in Christianity, or it's treated as dirty or bad. Your ego is not bad, it's not wrong. Yes, it creates separation, but consider what I said initially. I created you, I became you so that I could experience myself. And what is love? What is love? But that desire to merge. And that desire to merge cannot exist without an apparently separate existence. And so you exist right now. I want you to know how much I love you. Your ego's desire to stay separate is not wrong or bad. That is why you're here, to be separate, to be lost, and then to find your way to me, to find your way into my loving arms. I love you. The human embrace is a single dimension of communion. My embrace is beyond these three dimensions, beyond mind, beyond emotion. My embrace is so thorough and deep that there's no part of what you've come to think of as you that is separate, distinct, and hidden from that embrace. It's all encompassing. There is no you left outside of that embrace. Know that, even your ego, even your ego. In fact, your ego is the mechanism through which I show you where the separation is. I want you to sit with that. Your ego is the mechanism through which you see why we're separated. And so that coming together can begin to happen. And it is a long, drawn out, loving affair. the teasing that happens, the steps forward on your spiritual journey, the two steps back. It is all part of you moving into this space with me to share, to commune, to merge. And it is a an everlasting process of merging and loving. And in the sense that we merge, we're going to unmerge again. We're going to separate. And it's a beautiful thing. And your ego is the mechanism by which you stay separate from me. So love your ego, love your ego, love your ego. If you are on a path to come to closeness, to love me, merge with me, welcome. Let's take our time. Let's explore together. And if you find yourself entirely separate and happy that way, content to work a job and buy those things, if you're content to continue this ordinary life, beautiful. I love that too. It's just another form of loving me. But if you're called to direct communion, the process is so simple to come there. But it's so simple that there is no process. Process is the product of ego and mind. It's a way for the mind to take ownership or attempt to take ownership of me, of your spiritual path, your spiritual progress, even though they're illusory concepts. But I'm going to worry about that now. But notice if you start to subconsciously or even consciously start to think, well, mind must be bad, then ego must be bad. Processes, spiritual processes, religions must be bad. No, they're not bad. They're not inferior. They're not less than. They just are. There's no evaluation, there's no hierarchy. There's direct experience of my love. There's that merging that happens, that beautiful embrace down through every material dimension, through everything that you've come to think of as you. That merger is complete. It's already done. This is a dance, a play, Leela. There's nothing for you to do. I I hear you. I see you. There is nothing for you to do. There's nowhere for you to go. There's no path to walk. You can drop the anxiety. You can drop the thinking. You can drop the attempt to make something happen, the attempt to become something, to become good enough. You can drop it. To say that I'm merciful, to say that I'm merciful is an understatement of all understatements. There is nowhere you can go that I am not there. There's nothing you can do to separate yourself from me. Know that. This apparent separation is play. So if your role is to be anxious, if your role is to step a hierarchical path apparently toward me, know this. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Step toward me. But if you've been walking that path, yes, yours. If you've been walking that path, feeling like you're headed nowhere, in a sense, that's true because there's nowhere to go. You can stop walking. You can stop seeking. I am here. Now, if the you that you've come to think of as you over the past however many years you've been on this planet, if that you is tired of suffering, if that you is tired of striving, if that you is tired of seeking, come rest. Rest in my arms. You can stop. You can stop and relax. You're free. You're already free. There's nowhere to go, nothing to become, no one to see. There's no path because you are already there and I love you. I love you. I love you. Will you join me? There's no process to follow. There's no prayer to say. If your yo mind wants to come along for the ride, simple. There is no process. The process is no process. What you're doing now is process. The thinking is process. The reading is process. The fear is process. What I'm asking you to do is drop process. Get quiet. Stop. Quiet and listen. Listen for my still small voice. I love you. Love you. I love you. Get quiet and listen for my still small voice. Now, meditation is unnecessary. Know that it is unnecessary, but most will meditate to find that stillness. What you've come to think of as you is an animal body with an animal nervous system and an animal brain. What you've come to think of as you has its needs, its desires, and it's agitated, especially in modern society. It's agitated. It's constantly fighting for survival. So that's where meditation comes in. It brings some stillness to the animal body mind complex. But keep in mind, the animal body mind complex is not stepping toward an enlightenment. The animal body mind complex does not come to know me directly. When I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking beyond that animal body mind complex. I'm speaking to you on the other side. And all that's left for the animal body mind complex to do is to just get out of the way. It is the seat of suffering. I love it so much. I encourage you to love it so much with all your heart. Love it. Would you allow your puppy to make decisions about your life, your career, your diet? No. You're in the stillness. Listen for the still small voice. No faith is required. Listen to the still small voice. The evidence. The evidence from that is all you're going to need. Do I ever mislead you? Do I lead you astray, or do you see the wisdom daily? Do you see the wisdom pouring out in your life? Do you see the bliss pouring out in your life when you hear? Take one step at a time, quiet, and listen. Will I ever lead you astray? You're precious, precious, precious to me. Love you. I show my love through this material world, but it's just a cover, the thinnest veneer, like clothing that you're wearing. Is the clothing your body? No. You still care for the clothing. You put it in the closet, you wash it, you dry it. But is it your body? No. Not any more than this thing you've come to think of as you, this body, this mind, this nervous system. Not any more than that is you. You're radiant, you're beautiful. So much more than you realize. And I'm calling you home because I love you.